Barry, thank you very much for allowing me to come and meet with you. For the audience, can you firstly just introduce yourself?
Yep.
Who you are, what you do, and the company that you work for.
So, I'm Barry Rooney. I am the General Manager or Country Manager for Prima Power UK. Prima Power UK is part of the Prima Power Group, Prima Industry, and we are a global manufacturer of machinery and solutions for the sheet metal industry.
Okay. Now, we've known each other for quite a few years, and I wanted to come and talk to you because when we met at an overseas trade show last year, you were explaining to me about the changes in technology, which is the world I'm in, and trying to report on how the platform and the environments are changing. And I had gone to Prima Power in Turin, probably, well, it was around 2016.
Okay.
So it was a long while ago, but at that point, as well as seeing the new premises, learning about what Prima Power did globally, it was also, I think, about the Genius 2D at that point, roughly. But the world's changed. 10 years is gone on. So this is the opportunity to understand your footprint globally and UK, and how you as an individual managing those territories and working with clients on the ground, how you see things changing, evolving, moving forward from a production point of view. So let's start with that. You know, let's set the scene. What do you sell? Let's start with that.
So the core product range, which has changed significantly over the year, but is underpinned by the same processes. So Prima Power, from a machinery platform, we make 2D lasers, 3D lasers. 3D lasers that will work in subcontract industry, or specifically the aerospace industry. We have specific models for aerospace applications. We're talking engine turbines, things like that. And also the automotive industry. So big 3D lasers for making car parts, basically.
Right.
So on top of the laser technology, we then have the punch technology for punching applications, and we have combination punch laser machines. So that's the best of both worlds on one machine platform. In addition, if we're not using laser, but we do need other processes, we do punch and shear technology. So that's great for creating blanks for a variety of industries where the profile of the parts is more square without irregular shapes in them, which is obviously where the laser comes in. So those two types of technology, laser cutting and punching, or punching laser or punching shear, they would typically cut the materials, but then we also have the other side of it, which is for bending the materials, forming them. So from a forming point of view, your core, the thing that everybody knows, is the press brake. So of course we make press brakes. We also make panel benders. Panel benders are there for folding large panels, big trays, boxes and things like that. They're normally used in higher volume applications, but they can also be used in low volume applications depending on what it is we're actually making. So essentially what you're looking at there is cutting, punching, forming, i.e. bending. And then around all of that, we then have automation. And the automation is the big key topic that everybody's talking about now. And with the automation, as I say, that in itself is a whole other subject matter, but that goes with our machines. And of course, none of this is any use if you can't program it. So we have software as well. Okay.
So again, just for my people who are following the channel, Prima Power is a global brand. How long have you been in the UK? Can you guesstimate?
A long time, since the, off the top of my head, 80s, I think, possibly even a little bit earlier, depending on how we were represented at that point.
Okay, so the early years would have been selling press brakes and...
That would have been, well, the early years as Prima would have been purely on the laser side, but the punch and the press brakes and everything came a little bit later. The Prima group grew over the years by incorporating more of these technologies, more of these machine types into it as time went on. So the original Prima industry, as it first was actually the first machines we ever came out with were 3D lasers.
Okay.
Then we went into 2D, and then as time went on, we brought all these other product types
So
in.
you invested and bought.
Yeah, other companies.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
for example, the factory up in Finland became part of the group, and they were synonymous with the press technology. Sorry, the punch technology.
Okay, right. So at this moment in time, the bit that I wanted to capture and talk about was what you explained to me about how you feel the company has evolved in the last couple of years to the subject matter of moving beyond just a unit cell, a press brake, for example, through to helping manufacture produce parts through automation.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, the word automation is quite diverse, and people could say, well, you've put a low loader on the back and it's automated, but there's a big definition.
There's a lot of different ways of automating some things. So, for a long time, we've had automation as being an option on the machines, and we're talking load unload units for the raw materials and the parts as they come out. It's picking and stacking units for taking parts off the machines once they've been cut or processed and stacking them somewhere. That we've always had that capability. What's happened over the last few years is the drive, certainly since the COVID time as well, has been to way more automation and way more capability from it. So we've, again, going back over the years, we've always been able to bring machines together and create a line. And we manufacture various different types of line, which are essentially the same machines brought together and connected to have a process flow. What's happened over the last few years is people are wanting to integrate more processes together and do more within those processes. Our strapline is evolved by integration, but that actually quite sums up what the customers are looking to do. They want to evolve their businesses, evolve their processes, and the only realistic way to do that is to integrate them together and automate them. So effectively what happens is you have raw material going in at one end and finished product coming out at the other. So, for example, if you take a line that we might have done a few years ago, which would have been, if I take our punch shear buffer bend line, a PSPB, we would have had a tower with raw material in the tower. Material would have been picked from that. It would have gone through, in this case, a punch and shear, hence the PS, buffering to balance the load, and then onto the panel bender, bent, and somebody takes it from the end. That's still a core product. That's still a line that we do in very, very high volume around the world. The difference now is that the automation requirements might not start with simply putting raw materials in a tower. We could be asked to decoil and then put materials in a tower, or decoil and take materials from a tower. So that means the upfront process is different and needs to be automated, which we can do. But then at the other end, when the finished parts come off, I say finished parts, I mean bent parts coming off the end of the line, people are now saying, I need to automate that stage as well. So not just take them off the line, they may need to assemble them, for example. They may have parts of a door system that come off the end of a line and need assembling together to make a complete door before it then goes off to another stage in the factory where it's finished further or brought into another component, another part, another assembly. So our automation is now going way beyond just having a line that brings several pieces of process together, and literally going right from the raw material to the unloaded, stacked and even processed and assembled parts further on.
Okay, and that hinging on that, is that change that you're seeing, is that because of the need to produce a part better, quicker, faster, leaner, or is that because of skills, or is that because the manufacturing environment is now changing compared to 10 years ago where a man would do the press brake work and move it to the laser and then fold it and corner it and etc. So what are you feeling is driving that?
It's all of them. So you have a need for consistent, reliable volume, especially when we're talking about automation. It's more in the high volume sphere because obviously you're making variation on the theme, but you are making the same types of product, the same types of assembly over and over again. There's a caveat to that though, because a lot of customers also want adaptability. They don't want to necessarily pigeonhole themselves and make 5,000 doors a month or whatever that are all exactly the same. So you've got to drive for that efficiency and the process output and the reliability that you always know you're going to get those 5,000 units per whatever amount of time. The skills is a big thing because, again, talking about COVID, the skills themselves are not as prevalent in the industry and people want reliability. They need to know that that machine, when they turn it on Monday morning, is going to do what it's going to do, and until they turn it off, it's going to keep doing it, and not be reliant on an operator who may be trying to do other things or need a skill level that isn't there. For example, on press brakes, they are a very, very specific type of process that needs a skilled person to do it. So you've got a skills issue to deal with, you've got a manpower resource issue to deal with, because there's, in manufacturing industry, you don't necessarily have so many people coming through it in certain geographical regions anyway. But then the ability to tie all of this together and have a throughput, I keep saying consistent throughput because basically what it is, a high volume consistent throughput with minimal manual intervention and parts coming out that are accurate and the same and correct every time they come off that line.
Okay, so I've just made some notes previously, so performance, reliability,
accuracy and quality as well. For example, on a panel bender and even on a press brake, the machines are able, as they are on the cutting technology, they're able to monitor themselves to make sure that what they're producing is correct, that it's accurate. So every single time a part comes off the line, it's the same as the last one, the time before and the time before. For example, the panel benders have got an ability to actually measure what they're producing and correct themselves, and then learn the material to say, next time I do that batch of material, provided it's from the same supplier, because grain structures and things can affect the performance of the material itself. But I now know that that particular batch of material requires these factors to get the angle I'm looking for whilst I'm doing those bends.
Right. Okay. So
there's a huge amount of intelligence going in there.
Okay. Its own form of AI in interpretation to improve. But I suppose in summary, trying to lower the running costs. Exactly,
and that's a key thing. Again, that's something that Prima has driven for a long time in terms of, we have this philosophy called green means, about green manufacturing, about keeping the ecological impact from our machinery when it's running as low as possible. So everything we do is servo-electric. The lasers are fibre lasers, so obviously they're much lower running cost to the older CO2 type machines. So everything we do is about the low energy consumption, the low maintenance requirements as well, because as technology goes on, obviously the maintenance that requires for individual machines that's required is less. So that makes the machines more reliable, and it also makes the machines more accurate in terms of what they're producing. So coming back to what I was saying earlier on, is you've got consistent quality, reliability coming out of those machines, so that the customers that have them have a level of assurance that what they ask for is what they're going to get.
Okay. And again, just me trying to learn about your client base. These automation cells, let's call them cells being put together, are they for subcontractors, or are they for large OEMs that are, for example, producing a steel door, repeat, doesn't change, or can they be managed so that they can mix the workloads up based on the contracts that are coming through?
Yeah. So you'll find there's a scale involved. Obviously, a huge, great manufacturing line you're not going to find in a small subcontractors. But at the same time, small subcontractor wouldn't necessarily always be looking for a standalone machine. They may be looking for a machine that has some level of load-unload capability, of picking and stacking capability. For example, a 2D laser that's fed from a tower, a customer might want to have the parts taken out of that instead of having to do the manual shakeout from the sheet. The machine can do that. It can pick the parts out, stack them up on a pallet for them so they can go on to the next process. So it is scaled to an extent, so you'll find the bigger lines are in the bigger manufacturers, obviously where the volume is much higher, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those two are exclusive. You will find smaller customers, if there's a need for them, they will have a manufacturing line. And you can also equally find a bigger customer that has a specific requirement that doesn't need a high-end manufacturing line. They may only need either a standalone machine or a partly automated solution. The beauty of what we offer is that a customer can start with just a standalone machine and add automation as they go and combine machines together as they go. So for example, they could buy a punch and it just be a standalone punch, and then decide that they want to add a load unload unit. So we can add that to it. Then they might want to add picking and stacking to it. We can do that. Right now we need to tie it to, for example, a robot press brake or a panel bender, or we might want to take parts off and pick them from an AGV system and transport them off to another part of the factory. Our machines are modular. They allow us to do that, and so does the software.
For me, that's quite interesting, because if I work with lots of equipment sellers, and some would run a mile. They've got no interest. They want to close out the deal for the machine that they're trying to sell, knowing that that's not their skill set, for a better description. But I'm sensing that, yes, you would never walk away from a individual unit sale of a product, but you're turned on a little bit more.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right.
Excuse the terminology, but...
No, that's exactly right. We can go from one extreme to the other. So we can go, somebody could say to us, I want a 2D laser. We can do a 2D laser, no problem at all. No, I need a full-on manufacturing cell that's going to make X number of whatever assembly it is. Let's say it's for HVAC or data center industry or something like that, and it's got to be absolutely consistent throughput, and we need it to be this assembled product at the end of the line. We can do that as well. The difference is that we have got the capability of doing that. You know, as you say, some people might run a mile from it. We don't, because we have got those skills. We can build those systems. We're very solution orientated as well. We're not picking from a catalogue and saying you want one of those. We will work with the customer to determine what do they actually need for their process. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, and it has happened where we've turned around and said, no, you don't need that. You don't want a laser, you need a punch.
Right.
And we'll tell customers these things because we're working with them as a partner, not just for the machine sale. It's the long-term view that we take. Is they're a partner with us, which is why we have customers that once they come to us very often stay on board with us for many, many years and grow their Prima Power portfolio within their business as time goes on.
Okay, so and obviously we're in a small office where you've got a footprint in the UK, but this is just for our conversation purposes. What backup has Prima got to justify those comments about supporting? Just visualise, what is Prima, how big is it?
So from the point of view of local backup, of course, we have field service engineers within the UK, and we have technical support that's done from the UK, on the internet, over the phone, all the usual things. Sat behind us is our global group. Our headquarters is in Italy, in Turin, where we have one of our manufacturing centres. We've got other manufacturing centres all around the world. And we have logistics centres as well. So in addition to the factories making the machinery, I mentioned Finland earlier on, America and various other countries where we've got factories and technical centres, but we actually have logistics centres as well. So we have centres that deal with spare parts supply. So if a customer rings us up and says, I need a spare part, we'll pull them from the logistics centre and get them on site to the customer with the service engineer. A lot of our customers also are on preventative maintenance schemes as well. So rather than be reactive and wait for a breakdown to happen, we have a large array of different types of contracts that our customers can be on. So we're supporting them constantly to the extent where they don't have anything to worry about in terms of a breakdown. We're already on it from a preventative point of view. So hopefully that means if there is a breakdown, it's something we're either aware of, or it's not as big an issue as it could be if we weren't preventatively maintaining the machine.
Right.
It also means we can react that little bit quicker because our engineers are more involved in doing the preventative maintenance on a day-to-day basis, which means we can react a lot better. And it also means that we are maintaining the reliability of the machines on an ongoing basis, so the customer's expectations of the machines doing, as I said earlier on, day in, day out, doing the same thing. Well, that's what we're there. It's a partnership.
Okay.
We're supporting the customer. So in addition to the logistics centre, of course, that's the parts side of it, but we're backed up from the technology centres with the global backup, the global support. Yes, we can dial in and talk to the machine and do the interrogation, but so can the factories. And the factories can come in and support us, support our customers. So it's a big global company. It's got a large global footprint, a large installation base. And we're all about maintaining that contact with our customers and maintaining the reliability of the machines rather than just leaving them out there until they break down and then having to react to it.
Okay, all right. So there's different styles of business, but yours is clearly guided to
I
solving.
think some of that as well also reflects on the fact that, you know, our early days, as I mentioned earlier on, we're in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
You don't stop the automotive industry. You don't stop a car production line. That's you know, that's something that's unthinkable in that industry. It's also unthinkable in the aerospace industry, and for that matter, in any other industry. But because we've grown up with that ethos, that's just ingrained in what we do.
Right. Okay. So moving on. So the UK marketplace. Now, you'll be visible in the coming months at the MACH exhibition.
Yes. Yeah.
And the background behind MACH, for those who don't know, will be surprised, but it's the premier event for showcasing production equipment. Now, Prima's not been there for how many years?
It's a good few years now.
Good few
long
years.
before my time. With
Okay, so for a long period, Prima's not been there, but you've made the investment. You're going back to MACH, and I know the logic behind why, but in your own words, what are you hoping to achieve?
Multiple things. I think that the key requirement is the Prima Power name is very, very recognised throughout the industry. In the UK, not so much, and that's part of my team's mission. We want the Prima Power name to be known. We want it to be automatically associated with sheet metal, because what we offer is so powerful. It shouldn't be underestimated. It's a premium European built machinery with the support that everybody would expect. It's a very reliable, very robust and well-built product. And, you know, a force to be reckoned with in terms of what we can do. We have one of the widest product portfolios. As I say, a solution-oriented approach. Our sales guys are all engineers. We're all manufacturers. We've all run manufacturing shops, so we're actually speaking the language of the customers.
Right.
So I think first and foremost, it's the brand identity that's the key thing for MACH, to make people aware of who we are and what we do.
So I know that your stand at MACH is not going to be comparable to some of the stands that I've visited in Europe, which have been just ginormous. Because of the volume of equipment that you've got there on display. But you're going there to introduce yourselves as individuals, to build relationships.
Exactly, yeah.
And from there, no doubt, you'll be able to guide clients as to the types of production and automation systems that you're offering.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is with the MACH exhibition, and the machinery that we do, it'd be very, very difficult for us to try and put everything on an exhibition stand in MACH. You know, we'd have to have a huge exhibition stand. We have huge exhibition stands at other exhibitions.
Yep.
So it's not to say we don't do that, but at MACH, it's the first time we're coming back. It's the brand promotion as much as anything else, but there at the show will be representative examples of what we can do from the machines. So it's not just a booth, you know, we've got examples of what each machine type can do, and we can talk and engage with customers and explain more about what we do. But the thing is for the MACH exhibition, for us to try and put a really good representative example of what we do on the stand would actually be enormous.
Yeah.
And you know that.
Well, it'd have to be a factory footprint.
Exactly, it would have to be a factory full of everything that we do, and everything we do is such a wide range.
Which is unrealistic by anyone's imagination. But you're there, and you're going to be able to present yourselves. Now, the other reason why you told me you'd gone back to MACH was MACH's commitment to our sector.
Yes, yeah.
Again, in your words?
Well, I think the problem being, if we go back a few years, the sheet metal representation at the show disappeared. I remember the show from many, many years ago where all the different technologies of the industry, and I've come from different sectors, and all the technologies, all manufacturing technologies were there, but slowly but surely some of them have disappeared, and sheet metal is one of them. Sheet metal needs to be recognised. It's all around us. It's in the cars that we drive. It's the refrigerator in your kitchen. It's the washing machine. It's the refrigerators in a supermarket that you go to. It's everywhere. You know, the data centres that process all this data that we now consume are all made out of sheet metal cabinets. You know, it's just absolutely all around us. It's a major part of manufacturing industry. And the fact that MACH is now making a comeback in re-engaging with that sector, to me, is very commendable. And that's one of the reasons why I think we should be there. Okay.
Well, that's going to be very interesting in time to come, because you're right. I mean, as you know, our brand is about sheet metal, metal forming, fabrication, tube,
Yeah.
and they're all complementary manufacturing processes to the traditional milling and chipping world.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is commendable from a MACH point of view that they've recognised. We've now got the zone,
Yep.
which is labelled sheet metal, metal forming and fabrication. So for the industry of readers and followers, it's there now. It needs to grow. It needs to get more support. It needs to get bigger and better. But we've started that process.
Yeah, the process has started.
So we're all thoroughly looking forward to seeing what visitors we can drag out of the marketplace, bring them in and have some meaningful conversations. And obviously your involvement in that is very important. So we're looking forward to...
Definitely. And as I say, from the point of view of what we're capable of doing, if it's sheet metal related, nothing is really off the table.
Yeah.
So I would say to anybody that's coming and they're looking for something that might be slightly non-standard, come and talk to us. We will take a look at it. We are engineers, we understand what's being asked of us. And the technological development that Prima Power has gone through over the last few years has been huge. The pace of new products, new developments, whether they're a change in the software, an additional benefit in the software that we do, which has become so powerful over the last few years. The machinery that we do, the pace at which we get our announcements saying we've brought this out, we've brought this new machine out, we've brought this new development out, this new technology. It's astounding, and it seems to be growing at a faster and faster pace over the last few years. It's been absolutely incredible. Very, very exciting ride, if I'm honest.
Okay, so lots of internal investments.
Definitely, yeah.
And lots of new tech.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.